Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I have the Lovely Layers Magnolia Slimline card and envelope to share with you. So let's jump right in. So to start, I'm going to cut out my lovely layers, and I did cut 3 of everything to create 3 flowers. You're going to see that on the card design. And I'm going to show you here, I recently got the Sizzix Switch Plus, I believe it is. I'm going to move everything over and kind of back up my camera a little bit so you can kind of see it here a little bit better. And I have the Switch. I am going to use my Magic Mat with it, as you can see. And this is the first time I've used this machine, so I don't really know what I think of it yet, other than it seems like it's pretty amazing. But I just wanted to show you that that is what I'm using. I have had people ask me questions about my Gemini in the past. I had the large Gemini. This is the white Switch. I know Tim Holtz has a black version, and I believe Scrapbook.com has a pink version. But this is just the white one. And I just wanted to show it to you guys really quick there because it is a new addition to my crafting space. So I wanted to show it to you. So I did run that through on the standard platform. It comes with a very large platform, and that's not the one I'm using. I purchased separately a standard platform, which is the one you see I'm using here. And I just chose to use that one because I like the amount of space it takes up less. So I prefer to use smaller plates when I can, if I can. So that's what I chose to use there. And then we're going to jump right into adding some color to the Magnolia. So I did choose to go pink, yellow, and with a little bit of green on the leaves. That's kind of my preference here. You really could do them any color. I know traditionally they are like a pink centered flower, but I think that these would look stunning if we did like multiple colors or just different colors. I just kind of chose to be a little bit more normal colored in the first time doing this, just so I get a feel for how the dyes go together. And there is only 4 layers to this one, so they're actually pretty easy to get to put together. The smallest to the largest is how I ended up adhering them. You can see here that I keep layering them to see how much pink is coming out behind the next layer. That was just the easiest way for me to know how much color I wanted to add, because I didn't want it to be a super pink flower necessarily, but I didn't want it to also be, you know, like just a white flower. So I don't know, I had to kind of play with the layers to kind of get a better idea of where I needed my color and how much color I wanted. So for the pink, I used Kitsch Flamingo, and then there's 2 center pieces, and I'm going to use Scattered Straw. I believe that's the color. Yeah, I did. Scattered Straw for this. So I just colored the 2 layers. I'm using some mini blending brushes. This just gives me a bit more of a lighter hand. I tend to be heavy-handed when I blend, so I tend to use brushes when I want to have less color, and then I use domed foams when I want to have more color, because I find them easier for me to put color down. That's just kind of my preference for blending. And then I layered up the 2 layers there with the Scattered Straw. You can see that that's kind of the pink, and I know it's kind of hard to see here, but I will hold the flower up once I've built it as well, so you can kind of see the whole thing. But I am going to adhere this one flat. Actually, I adhere them all flat. I'm lying to you. They're all going to be flat. I mean, they're layered, so there's lots of dimension, but I didn't add extra dimension while adhering them. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just going to use my Barely Art glue, and I'm going to go through, and I am going to start now again from the top layer. So I added the little stamen to the flower, and then I'm lining up the layers as they would go on the flower. So you could go backwards. You could start with the bottom layer and go forward. I chose to go this way just because I felt like it was easier for me to line up my layers and know what needed to go next and where it needed to go, because everything sticks together. So it's actually fairly simple once you have them to layer them up, because they all just sit on top of each other very, very nicely. So it was pretty easy to build, and there you can see that is the first Magnolia. I'm only going to show the first one. I did the other 2 the exact same way. And then for my leaves, I brought in some bundled sage, and I blended that on all of the leaves. And I felt like it didn't have enough dimension because the flowers have so much dimension, and then the leaves with just this kind of single color ended up looking a bit flat to me. So I'm also going to bring in some Rustic Wilderness and just blend that on kind of the bottom area of the leaves and kind of tried to blend that up a little bit just to create a little bit of added dimension to the leaves. It's not the same effect you're going to get as you did from the flowers. Like there's so many layers there that you get a fair amount of dimension, but this just kind of helps break up that solid color when those florals have kind of like a multitude of colors going on. So another way I could have done that was if I had brought in like a Copic marker and just added a little more detail to the leaves. That would have also helped, but I didn't. So I just added a second color to kind of give them a little extra dimension on the leaves. And then we're going to jump into creating the card base. So I am going to make a slimline card. I make my slimline cards 7 by 8.5 inches. So I'm going to cut off a piece of like 4-inch piece of cardstock there, because it makes this 7 by 8.5. That's just kind of my preferred. I have heard some people do 7.5 by 8.5, also an option. And then I have the We Are Memory Keepers Slimline scoreboard, I believe this is. I'm using it to score my cardstock because you can do that with the bases for this. It also makes envelopes, which you're going to see here in a little bit. I will make an envelope once the card is done, and we'll kind of have a look at the envelope that I make, but I did choose to do that. And then this is the extra piece that came off of the base, and I'm just going to run it through the switch with I think they're the Slim Lacy Layers dies. They're by Waffle Flower. Everything I use will be linked and listed down below. Now, really, I should have probably used the bigger one, but I didn't. And so the bigger plates. So I have a little area on the very bottom here that didn't quite cut all the way through. You can kind of see it there. So I just didn't remove the die. I'm just going to run it back through my switch that point forward, and I just went a little bit, and then I pushed the switch button and it came right back, and then it was easily cut out. So I mean, I should have used the bigger plates, but I didn't want to. So I just made my smaller plates work. Generally for a slimline, I would use the bigger plates. It's just that I was too lazy to grab them, so I didn't. But here I've kind of laid out everything how I want it. So I brought in a piece of press and seal so that I could keep everything where I had laid it out, so that I could adhere the leaves to kind of the flowers and kind of give me that same effect that I had already built without having to rebuild it. So this is kind of a fun and easy way to, if you've got like a really specific layout in mind, which I struggle a little bit with florals, so I find this makes it a little easier for me to create kind of clusters of the flowers. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I find that the press and seal really helps, and I have it on hand because I put it on my any of my jars or pastes or anything, so I have some on hand anyways. So I just save this piece, and I've used it several times to create these kind of layouts so that I don't have to worry about losing the layout that I'm working on. And so this just helped me adhere all of my leaves. And then I'm going to adhere my 2 back layers flat. And you see that I made 6 leaves. I only used 5 leaves and 3 flowers because I like uneven numbers. I find that they look better. So that's kind of what I was thinking. You could have tucked that extra leaf in there and just had it be behind something, and it would have still looked great. I just prefer uneven numbers, so that is the direction that I tend to go with them. But there's no wrong way to do this. This is just kind of my preference. And then I chose to do a slimline because I hadn't done one in forever. And I was like, these would look stunning with these lacy layers dies. So I had to bring them in together. I actually have the A2 lacy layers on order, so hopefully I will get those soon. And then I realized I hadn't added my sentiment, so I didn't want to adhere the center flower because it's going to be a little bit raised. So I brought in an acrylic block and my Delicata gold glitz ink, and I used a stamp from the Simon Says Stamp Sketched Flowers. That was my sentiment. And I just adhered, or I stamped that down in the bottom corner there. That's where my sentiment was always going to go. I just had originally intended to stamp it out before I had laid everything down, but I forgot, so I had to do it at the end. And I just chose gold because I thought it would be a really pretty accent to the colors that I already had going on. I didn't want to introduce another color, not really. So I mean, you could have stamped it out maybe in one of the colors I used of ink on the flowers, but I didn't want it to take away from them either. So in the end, I did choose gold. I thought about embossing it, but because it's such a fine sentiment, I chose to just stamp it in Golden Glitz, which is my favorite golden pigment ink. And then I brought in my, this is the Spectrum Noir Clear Glitter pen. And I'm going to put it all over the center of the flowers. And then I'm going to kind of flick it out on the petals. It's difficult to see here, but I will hold it up in the end so that you can kind of, it catches the light and you get to see how much glitter is actually there. And I think that it just adds something subtle, but still just stunning to the card. And I love how this card turned out. I'm always drawn to florals, but I tend towards bolder, more vibrant colors. So to do something a little bit more it's subdued and elegant, I always struggle a little bit with. So I was pretty excited with how this card kind of came together. So I'd love to know what you guys think of the card. If you want to leave me a comment and let me know. I always read all of my comments and I respond to them. Sometimes it takes me a minute, but I do always respond. And then I just brought in a couple of the Arctic Breeze pearls by Studio Katya. If you guys have been watching my channel, you know I love these pearls. They're stunning. I like pearls, and the white ones go with everything. So now we're going to make the envelope. So it says there that we need a 9 by 11.5 inch piece of cardstock. So I have a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock here that I'm going to cut down. And I do have my 12 by 12 trimmer here just because it's easier for 12 by 12 cardstock, obviously. So I've cut it down to the 9.5 by 11. And then I'm going to bring it into the envelope punch board. So I'm going to make this seem more confusing than it is based on how I'm going to do this, but it doesn't need to be. So you as long as you keep your piece of cardstock portrait, you will have no problems. It's if you turn it landscape, you'll have a problem because it is a rectangle. So if you end up, like right there, I was right, but I got confused for a second. So it's okay. I'll figure it out. We're good to go. But as long as you keep the piece of cardstock in the landscape position, it'll work out perfectly fine. It's just because it's a rectangle. So because it's a rectangle, you can't just rotate it around because you'd end up with the small squares on the sides. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. As long as you keep your cardstock in the portrait, it will work and you will have even scored lines. So I messed it up the first time I used this and I haven't used it in a little while, so I had to really kind of think through how to make this. But yeah, I made it a little kind of confusing there when I was recording this because I got confused for a second, but I promise as long as you stay in landscape. So you go landscape, do one corner, rotate it, do the other corner, and then flip the card so that you're kind of cutting it from the back side, and then you will have it cut properly. It's just that I got confused there for a minute, so I did it kind of wonky, but it will work, I promise. So then I'm just kind of trying to decide if I wanted the flaps on the outside or the inside. You can make this like a portrait style envelope. I'm going to choose a landscape one. I prefer them. I like the look of them better for whatever reason. So that's how I'm going to adhere mine. And then I couldn't decide if I wanted the flaps on the inside or the outside. In the end, I decided I wanted them in the inside, and I used some liquid glue. You could, of course, use double-sided tape instead if you wanted to. And then I kind of just made sure my card would fit, which it will. However, that one leaf at the top sticks out a tiny bit and gets crushed. So I brought in my scissors and trimmed off just a small amount so that it wouldn't get crushed, and then I don't have to worry about the envelope. But then I was like, well, we have to decorate this, so what are we going to do? So I brought in my Magnolia background stamp set. This is from Simon Says Stamp. I don't know if they sell it anymore. If they do, I'll have it linked and listed down below. If they don't, I'll try to find a different one. You could, of course, create another flower and adhere it to the front, although that would add a fair amount of bulk, so I don't know if you'd want to do that. But I chose to just use a stamp I had in my stash. And I'm using the same colors that I used on the ink blending for the flowers. So I'm using the Kitsch Flamingo on the flower petals. I'm using Scattered Straw in the center of the flowers. And then I'm going to take Bundled Sage and Rustic Wilderness and kind of just randomly stamp them on the leaves in the background. Now, this isn't going to be perfect, and I don't really care that it isn't perfect. This is the envelope. This is really just to tie them together and because I thought it would look cool. So, I mean, there's no real rhyme or reason. If you wanted it to be more precise, you could put it in a stamping platform. You could use daubers to get the colors perfectly where you want them. I wasn't concerned about that. I just thought that this would look cool. So I used the plastic it comes on, and I'm just going to flip it over and stamp it on the envelope. And I did kind of snap it off the edge. Now you could have ripped a piece of cardstock to give it kind of a tattered look. I didn't do that, so I know it has those kind of corners. I'm not concerned about it because I'm going to write an address over top of it anyway. But I love how it turned out. I think it turned out really neat. I'd love to know what you guys think. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and I'd love if you'd consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and I think I have some neat stuff coming up. So come and check it out. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.